Landon, do you want to pick the next topic?
Let's talk about, speaking of scams, Elizabeth Holmes.
All right, next
Oh,
is Elizabeth
yes.
Holmes.
Oh, I have so much to say about that
Theranos.
also, but I'll let Landon.
Landon, why don't you bring us up? Then we'll get Maanyaa. Then we'll go to Dapper.
Elizabeth Holmes is a scammer that scammed a lot of people out of their money, lied basically repeatedly about what they were doing. It appears to me, and so those are the facts. That the question, I guess, becomes why, and it had the hallmark appearances of somebody saying, well, if I just imagine it, if I just talk about it, it'll happen, right? And I think there was a cult of personality that got involved in this. I think people got really, all agog about this person becoming worth this many billions of dollars.
$100 billion.
Being young. And it comes down to a general problem we have with a number of people, which is the super wealthy or the apparently super wealthy get to become celebrities and get to become like the almost like royalty, and they're given a pass at so many things. And it was amazing how much Theranos was able to actually con people into their stuff when they had nothing, right? This is one example where it sounded really good.
Former Secretary of State was, baffled, like was muddled up by Elizabeth Holmes. So it was, and the biggest red flag was they had no one from the background who was either studied medicine or pathology or disease on their board. They had no one like that. They almost had someone close to that, because I think so Steve Jobs, co-founder, was part of the board for some time. But when he started asking the technical questions, Elizabeth was like very aloof. So he was like, I'm out of here. Yeah. So he knew what was going on. But not to raise the questions in the public. That's what my problem is. Why didn't you raise those questions in the public? If hadn't been,
do we know?
Pardon?
I said, was he under an NDA? Do we know if that might be the case? Because that might be the reason he just didn't want to be sued.
Yeah, there were stories that came out that Theranos was very aggressive with their NDAs and their contracts.
Yeah, that's probably.
And they managed to get a drugstore chain to install their pseudo boxes,
Walgreens,
in their pharmacy stuff. And besides the financial con, there were people who had blood tests done where essentially the results were garbage. And I have to say, the appearance is that she knew that this was not what it was said, but she was too brought up in the whole hype thing of saying, wow, you're this old and you're now worth $9 billion type of stuff.
Fear of missing out. So all the investors who were, social pressure was there. And Walgreens basically were roped in because they were like, we are going to miss out on an opportunity. That's how they presented this to everyone out there. They were like, we know what we are doing. Do you know what you're doing? Like the biggest gaslight in the history of like financial crisis. Biggest gaslight. So, and also, it's also like because they kept the board structure. Like she had the 99% of the vote. So board was just 1% of the total vote. So nobody could do anything actually. So they were just there as posers. They're like, oh look, these people back us up, so we must be legit, So that's what happened. Yeah. And if people asked questions, they were shut down very quickly.
Well, that's what charisma will do for you, though, right?
Charisma
and an absurdly artificially deep voice. Did you hear that That's not her real voice. Wait, she was always talking like this. Like, come on, man, that's not your real voice. No. It's deeper than most baritones I know. That's fake.
This is the worst of PR, right? A PR machine backing up somebody that didn't have anything behind them.
Okay, so as much as I talk about PR on this channel, because it's kind of like what I've experienced in, there's something to be said for PR can be used for evil. PR can be used to make somebody who is an absolute piece of shit garbage person look like a goddamn angel if that person actually listens, right? If the person listens to what the PR person says, they don't actually have to do much of anything. They just have to not do specific things. So like Amber Heard is a really good example, right? You could fix Amber Heard's reputation in probably 3 to 5 years. And 3 of those 5 years is making sure she does nothing. Do nothing. Don't do anything. Shut the fuck up. And don't do anything. Don't be on Twitter. Don't do any interviews. Don't do any work at all. Do nothing. Go and live your life and tell people you're trying to recover and just say you realized you had a problem and then pretend you did anything and then come back 3 years later and be like, "Man, I've really changed."
So do you think let's presume that Theranos didn't actually claim that their stuff worked, that they were still doing research and development, that they didn't go into putting machines into drugstores and so forth, but they talked about their hopes for trials, right? Do you think they could have gone along on a just without stepping into sort of the illegalities?
I don't know, because look,
for the start.
Well, here's the thing. You're basically just describing. Oh, sorry.
The thing is that they had a concept of what they wanted to achieve, and I'm quite sure Elizabeth had good intentions from the start. She's a 19-year-old kid. All right.
19-year-olds are assholes.
Yeah,
they are.
I've met a lot of 19-year-olds.
I would not make that assumption. Is all I'm getting at.
Okay, so she had this idea. She was told by her professor no. If you remember, one of her professors was like, "This is not feasible. You have to first get your degree, and then there was a phrase like, you have to keep doing when doing is like not even in the question, that you have done everything. And it's not even in the question. So you're going 10 steps ahead. That's where you start getting good info data to like see if something's feasible that you think is feasible or not." And she was like, "Nah, I'm gonna be the next Steve Jobs." Okay. Opted out of Stanford, just like Steve Jobs did. So she thought by copying other people, she could achieve what she wanted to achieve. But because she lacked an education, she had no background in study of disease, pathology, even chemical, like how fluid dynamics, chemicals, nothing. She opted out before she could gain
just
that
the basic laws of thermodynamics, so forth.
Yeah, she opted out.
But what about the null hypothesis?
But perhaps if they instead had promoted themselves as, we are going to do research to see how we can do tests with better tests with minimal blood, and said, please invest in us because we're doing this research to see what can be achieved, she might have been able to stay on the legal side rather than on the scam side. Maybe.
Well, I think
something can be legal. Something can be legal and still be a scam.
So here's the thing, right?
Okay.
What that describes is basically literally everything Elon Musk has ever done, which is to say, hey guys, invest in me because I'm going to do this thing that's absolutely batshit insane that I'm never going to do, and it's completely impossible. But I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to do it in 3 months. Yeah. And then, 3 months go by, and he's like, oh, well, I was overly optimistic, but thanks for all the money.
I think there are some things.
No one seems to care.
I think there are some things that Elon Musk has done right. Particularly when it comes to creating the following that he has. Like, he didn't get that following by accident.
No, he's good at memes and presenting himself as a genius.
So I think the answer to my question is no. I don't think that Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos could have gone a legitimate route, because the legitimate route would have come up with the this is unfeasible, and the company would have folded.
Right, legitimate, no.
Doesn't seem to be in the
Legal,
cards.
maybe.
Yeah,
I think she could have done
like-
legally, but not legitimately.
but we
the
have
thing is that
Go
even
ahead.
sorry, go on. Even the initial experiments that came out later when they started designing everything, their design team was woefully ignorant. They had no fucking idea what they were doing. And I think so right from the start, I think so after just few tests that they did, the models that they built, I think so from the third model, they just gave it up. They were like, we are just going to present it as, they were hoping that they will present to the world that it's working, and in the background, some miracle will happen. Someone will get an idea and we will figure it out. When nothing like that was going on. They were just like, because when they started pretending that the device is working, they had to provide the services that they claimed that they can provide. And people like, where are the services? So they started venturing in that area. And then regulations come in that area, you know, that they had to deal
and that's
with.
where
And
they
they were
just
trying to
descended
sidestep
into the deep stuff.
all
You're
their
right.
energy, money.
I think she personified this notion of, well, if you can dream it aspirationally, the universe will provide type of stuff.
Well, that sounds like Scientology to me.
Yeah, but you know, you mentioned and there was a previous comment about Elon Musk and some of the things. You know, if you talk about sort of a grifter and a scam, a con artist, you know, it is the case where the cult of personality that we put around the uber wealthy gives them passes that most normal people don't, right? That's
between
the notion of
wealth and like status, like a celebrity status, because you can have status and have no money, right? So it's a matter of like, did you have money at one point, or do you have no money but you're able to present yourself as if you do, or have some other thing, which you find in the Elizabeth Holmes situation.
This reminds me of something similar. There was this girl, right, from Russia, I don't know, from the Russian region, who came to New York, I don't know, somewhere, and she pretended that she was a millionaire. Yeah, billionaire, and she ended up like using everybody else's credit cards, bank transfers, maxed out everything, and lived the life of luxury. And everybody was like, she was so charismatic and she was so decisive, like she knew what the fuck she was doing. So everyone was like, yeah, we'll just go along with it. And I was just like, wow. If she can do that, Elizabeth is nothing. Yeah. Like she can do everything.
So the difference is is that, you know, had Elon Musk been a multimillionaire, I don't think people would have given him the passes that they have. The problem is that Elizabeth Holmes financially burned some very powerful people, and they wanted to get her, right. So in some ways, the scams that Musk has done may not have ventured into. He may have, because he was smart enough to not go into like health records and healthcare stuff. But nonetheless,
he did go into brain implants.
I'll give you a little pushback on that, Landon. People who invested, they got burned, but it wasn't them who actually started the chain of events of asking questions. It was an anonymous person with a background in pathology, who wrote a blog every day about science and everything, who came across Elizabeth Holmes' claims and was like, bullshit, and went to a reporter and said, this might be good to look into. And it took the efforts of the reporter, despite Elizabeth's lawyers trying to shut it down, his efforts and the whistleblowers who cared that people's lives are being endangered.
Yeah. And had she, for example, just dabbled in cryptocurrency or something like that, it might not have gone into, you know, you're right, the healthcare stuff. But I think, you know, and so I agree with you. I retract my previous thing, and I think you're right there, Maanyaa. In the case, you're welcome. But in the case, for example, of Musk, the surprising thing is that nearly everything he's done and everything he says is wrong. right?
Well, let's hold off on Musk until we get to Twitter, because that's like a
Sure.
whole its own thing.
I can kind of empathize with Musk
I
a
don't
little
think-
bit, but I'll let.
I like how I said let's hold off on it, and everybody told me no.
But
Sorry,
I think
sorry,
that Holmes, unlike Holmes, I don't think that he's gone into the level of illegality and affecting people's health. He's been probably smart enough not to.
There's been a good number of things that okay, yeah, we'll leave it. We'll come back to Elon Musk later.
We have a lot of things, Landon, that we will discuss. It's a very juicy topic.
All
We
right,
will
Dapper.
discuss it. Let's keep
Elon's
it
got a
there.
couple
Don't
of
forget to
things
like
that
and
he's
share
been
and all
very,
that good
very, very
shit.
smart
Dapper.
about in the way he's approached
wanna cover
them,
next?
and very, very, very clever, although
let's
risque
do the
or
Brooks trial.
potentially questionable, depending on how you look at it and what angle you're coming from. But we'll get to that.